On today's American Football Stories episode, we'll recap this weekend's Week 4 NFL action. American Football Stories is brought to you by Coach Paint. Coach Paint offers the ability to clearly tell a straight video while increasing retention of information in a shorter amount of time. Up your game today with Coach Paint.
What time is it? Game time! It's gonna be special. They're gonna talk about this forever.
Welcome to American Football Stories.
Puts his head down, crashes and spins, and dives. Touchdown!
Bringing together the many perspectives that make up college football in the NFL.
Football is one of the greatest sports ever invented.
From players and coaches.
Believe, baby, believe, baby. Hey, we playing to win right here, fellas.
To the front office and scouts.
The public is finally beginning to catch up, but they don't even know half the truth.
Let's get the world, let's get it.
Your hosts, Robert Parker and Nick Knudsen, bring you American Football Stories.
Welcome to the American Football Stories podcast brought to you by Coach Paint. Today is October 4th, 2020. I'm Nick Knudsen. I'm joined by my co-host, Robert Parker III. You ready to go, Rob?
Ready to go, Nick.
All right, on Thursday night, we had the Denver Broncos travel in New York to take on the Jets, and the Broncos needed every bit of this one to get by the lowly Jets, Rob. We had Brett Rypien making his first start for the Broncos. He looked okay. I mean, he put up some good numbers, had a couple nice throws here and there. 3 interceptions, though, which really kept the Jets in the game. Pretty athletic run, 46-yard rush by Sam Darnold. Didn't really see that coming. But other than that, this is 2-0-3 teams. I'm not sure either one is particularly good this year. It was a better football game than I thought, though. It was at least an entertaining game to watch. What did you think about this one?
Definitely entertaining to watch, especially for a Thursday night game. Just like you said, I think Denver needed this win more than the Jets. Drew Lock is expected to be back in the next couple of weeks, so at least they can get a win on the board for him. And if he can go on and play and they can bottle up some wins, at least they can make a push to be a wild card playoff team. But once again, just like you said, entertaining game. Sam Darnold, gutsy performance. Did you see the play where he got knocked out the game and I thought he was out for good and then he comes back? So he really definitely showed his guts in that Thursday night game, Nick.
Yeah, you had Tim Patrick had a good game for the Broncos. Really had a good connection with Rypien. Melvin Gordon goes over 100, had a big run to steal the game. But I want to know, did Brett Rypien do enough to stave off Blake Bortles from potential start next week?
Wow, that's a tough question. Once again, you mentioned the 3 interceptions, so we saw. I know we were following this Eagles and 49ers game tonight. We saw Nick Mullins get benched and pulled for throwing interceptions. So maybe we will see that moving forward if Drew Lock is still out and he's not available to come back. So we might see a Blake Bortles appearance moving forward, Nick.
If I'm Blake Bortles, I'll go, you know what? I'll sit out that game next week against the Patriots. But 2 weeks against the Dolphins, maybe that sounds a little better. But hey, Brett, why don't you keep the job for another week and a half? Maybe I'll come in that second half of that Patriots game when we're getting our doors blown off. I think that's probably the better move for Blake. But Denver, not a great team. The Jets, definitely not a good team. Surprisingly entertaining game for a Thursday night. I enjoyed, especially the fourth quarter was pretty entertaining. All right, let's go to Sunday. Jacksonville at Cincinnati. Another entertaining matchup with 2 not very good teams, but it was a Joe show on the banks of the Ohio River. Burrow goes for 300 yards passing for a 3rd week straight. Mixon goes off, 151 yards rushing, 2 touchdowns. Bengals advance to 1-2-1. Minshew and the Jags were up 13-10 at the half, but the Bengals used a 17-0 run in the 3rd quarter to put this one away. Jags scored late to make it look closer than it was, but after 2 hard-fought games in weeks 1 and 2, the Jags end up falling to 1 and 3. Defense is really looking like a struggle there in Jacksonville this year, even though Minshew tends to shine, and especially numbers-wise. I wonder what percentage of those numbers are being put up in garbage time right now. Rob, it's a nice break, like a nice breakthrough for the Bengals here. You get the win. His first win for Joe Burrow, but let's face it, the Jags are one of the worst defenses in the NFL here. Next up for the Bengals, Baltimore, Indy, Cleveland, Tennessee, and Pittsburgh. I like Burrow, but do you see the Cincinnati team winning more than 3 or 4 games this season?
I don't, Nick, but I think this is going to be more of an experience learning year for Joe Burrow. It really seems like, he's comfortable in the offense, and it seems like he grasped the concept of what they're trying to do on the offense side of all. If he can get more games from Joe Mixon like that, I think the Bengals can pull off some couple more wins moving forward. But once again, it just seems like that Burrow to T. Higgins connection is going to be a deadly duo for a long time coming.
Yeah, that they've looked impressive so far. Got to be very happy with Burrow if you're a Bengals fan. Definitely something to build on in Cincinnati. Another franchise quarterback across the state of Ohio, Baker Mayfield. Finally, the Browns break through on a big stage. They beat the Cowboys 49-38. Cleveland rose to the moment and won as an underdog. I might be overrating a 1-3 Dallas team a bit here, Rob, but this Cowboys team can score, and Cleveland brought it today despite losing Nick Chubb to injury. Looked a little scary, but I heard it was an ankle, so hopefully it's nothing too bad up with an ankle. But over 1,000 total yards of offense in this game. Dallas puts up 566. But the difference is 3 Cowboys turnovers versus 0 to the Cleveland Browns. So the Browns were down 14-7 before ripping off 5 straight scoring drives to push it to 38-14 early in the third. And like we've seen out of Dak and the Cowboys offense in the last 2 weeks, Dallas comes all the way back. It makes it 41-38 late in the fourth when Odell Beckham puts the game on ice with a ridiculous reverse TD from midfield. I mean, it was a great run. Rob, I know you've been a Cleveland doubter. All right. Good day for Odell, by the way. He also caught a pass from Landry. I think, did he have 3 touchdowns today, Rob?
If I can recall, I know he caught one from Jarvis Landry. I know he ran the reverse back, and I think Baker Mayfield actually hooked up with him. But I could be wrong. But
2 receiving TDs. 2 receiving TDs in the rush TD. I thought he had a second one. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but once again, it earlier in the game, it just seemed like Baker Mayfield and Odell Beckham, it just seemed like, they actually put in some extra practice time, and it seemed like that duo was working all game. But once again, you talk about the injury to Nick Chubb. Hopefully it's not that severe, but once again, what's a great backup to have than Kareem Hunt? Like, how about the game that Kareem Hunt had? So I think the Browns offense is not missing a beat, no matter, who's in the backfield. It just seems like they can kind of, place and plug guys in the backfield as long as Baker Mayfield is taking shots down the field with Odell and Jarvis.
I'm glad you said that because I know you've been a Cleveland doubter, Rob. But the Browns put up near 100 with Baker only throwing for 165 yards and 2 touchdowns. So it's not overly Baker dependent here. The offense has weapons all over the field. The running game was on fire today. 307 rush yards, even though Chubb left. But Hunt goes for 71, 2 TDs. Dearness Johnson, 95 yards on 13 carries. I'm sure a ton of people have Dearness Johnson on their fantasy team. No, Cleveland's fine. I like what they're developing a little bit of an identity here, becoming more of a run the ball first team, play some defense, and they're not asking Baker to do too much. And whereas I feel like last year at times they did. Like, are you starting to believe in this Browns team as a playoff contender, or will you continue to doubt?
This performance that they put together, especially on a big stage, it made me believe a little bit more, Nick. But I just have to see the level of consistency. I know Baker Mayfield didn't throw for, 3 plus 400 yards or 5 touchdowns. But once again, I think this Browns team is only going to go as far as Baker Mayfield takes them. And I would like to see Baker Mayfield use his legs a little bit more to kind of get out of those situations where, the receivers might not be open or, the pressure is coming after him. I just like to see him take off a little bit more and also get Austin Hooper involved a little bit more. He's been kind of throwing his way a little bit more, but definitely got to get one of the highest paid tight ends involved in the offense a little bit more, if you ask me, Nick.
So that sounded like a long-winded answer for no, I don't believe in the Browns still.
You're right. I really don't. I just have
Oh,
to see.
3-1. Did they go into Dallas to do it? You still can't do it.
I just have to see the level of consistency, Nick. Once again, big win against Dallas. You tip your hats off to the Browns and that organization. Great win for Baker Mayfield, and it seems like Odell Beckham is having fun again. So you love to see that, and it seems like he's the Odell Beckham of the Giants. So if they can kind of replicate that moving forward, then I'm might hop on the bandwagon, Nick. But for right now,
Okay.
I'm gonna pump the brakes, and I have to see him do it for at least a couple weeks in a row.
Okay, they're playing the Colts and the Steelers the next 2 weeks. If we get wins on those stretches there for the Browns, and you're still not on the bandwagon, I don't know what to do with you. I don't know what to do.
If they can get if they can pull off 2 wins back to back against the Colts and the Steelers, then I'm definitely hopping on the bandwagon, especially with that Steelers defense. That's the matchup that I would like to see. I need the Browns to win those interdivision matchups more so than anything, Nick.
Got to remember the playoff field expanded by 1. It's 17 playoff field now. Okay, so even though the Browns are buried in this AFC North, they might be the 3rd best team in their division, but they might be a playoff team too. Because I don't see where the playoff teams are coming from elsewhere. So I maintain it. I'm believing. I think people were a year too soon on the Browns. Like I'm a believer in the Browns this year. Sticking with it. We'll continue to have this argument as the season goes. Hopefully Cleveland will get you on board within the next couple of weeks. Dallas fans, don't panic. Cowboys are in a division where the 1-2-1 Eagles, they just clinched the win over San Francisco. They're sitting at top of the division. You're a half game out of first place, Dallas. You'll be fine. You could win the next few games here. You'll be in first place by November. So no need to panic if you're a Dallas fan right now. All right, New Orleans goes to Detroit. Man, they fall behind early, but the Lions blew another 2-score lead. New Orleans comes out of this one, 35-29 victory. This was something where I didn't know really what to expect from the Lions. I was impressed with the way they came out. I thought they battled throughout the afternoon, but they just let New Orleans just kind of take over for a stretch, and they just kind of went to sleep. And it seems like to be a steady pattern with Matt Patricia's Lions in particular. Like basically the Saints exploded for 28 points before the half. They score 6 minutes and they score on a TD after eating up 6 minutes in the first possession of the second half. And then they just kind of drain the clock the rest away, and the Lions put up a couple of meaningless TDs. But one TD that their last TD the Lions put up, they're down 35-27. And they ended up converting a 2-point conversion, but I thought it was a weird call. Why do you go for 2 in that situation, Rob? Can you explain that to us?
Yeah, so I think we had this same scenario in the Jacksonville-Cincinnati game where, everyone's saying like when you're down a touchdown and you go for 2, the probability of winning the game increases not so much dramatically, but by a little bit. So you go for 2, and if you don't get it, it's still a 8-point game. So I think the Lions were kind of doing the same thing that kind of happened in the Jacksonville game. But once again, I'm always a big stickler for taking the points. So you can't leave no points. You have to get all the points on the board to win the game. And I think the Lions, once again, they blew it. They get out to a 14-0 lead on the Saints, and they kind of gave that one away. The only thing that I really enjoyed watching this game was just seeing Adrian Peterson run hard, and it just seems like he's the ageless wonder. Seemed like he's going to be playing. Him and Frank Gore seems like they have this challenge among each other to see who's going to play the longest. So I think that's commendable, and Adrian Peters is definitely producing. So I tip my hats off to AP and the Lions. Once again, they're the Lions. They're doing what we expect them to do.
I mean, they're a couple of drives away from being 3-1 here. It's weird. I don't think they're a bad team. I think they're a pretty competitive team. You just got to find some ways to win some close games. You shouldn't lose all of them. So I guess they did find a way to win one at Arizona last week, but got to see a little more from the Lions under Patricia. Would like to see them at least hold on to some of these massive leads they built. All right, let's go down south to Miami. You had Seattle going across the country. 1 p.m. kickoff on the East Coast. I think a lot of people were on the Dolphins, at least covering on this one. Seattle ends up covering barely, but Miami puts a late touchdown up to kind of make it interesting. But Russell Wilson, he only threw for 2 TDs today. We're used to him throwing at least 4. But don't worry, he threw for 360 yards. And these Seahawks, they pulled away late to seal the deal on this one. It was competitive for most of the afternoon. Fitzmagic kept the Dolphins around, but they didn't find the end zone until the fourth quarter. A bunch of field goals before that. Devontae Parker, DK Metcalf go over 100 yards each in this one for you fantasy freaks. Good win for the Seahawks playing early on the East Coast. Seattle improves to 4-0. To me, they're now the clear favorite in the NFC West. But, Rob, are they the clear-cut favorite in the NFC as well?
That's the way it's looking to me. I know, Russell Wilson, just like you said, he didn't throw for the normal 4 TDs that we've been accustomed to seeing him throw this year. But I think the more thing was seeing Chris Carson come back. I know he was injured and banged up, and I think they put him in concussion protocol. But to see him back on the field, I think that bodes well for Seattle moving forward. I think Fitzpatrick, he's definitely going to keep Miami in the games. But once again, you can't keep kicking field goals. You have to score at some point to kind of win the game. And I think, the Dolphins didn't score enough, and Seattle just kind of walked away with the game, especially with the quarterback as Russell Wilson's having the caliber of Russell Wilson on the other end. You've got to put up points. So once again, the Dolphins, they're going to be competitive no matter what team they play, but they're a couple years away from actually putting a consistent season together, Nick.
Yeah, I think Fitzpatrick, we talked about this last week, and we believe it's the Dolphins plan to really stick with Fitzpatrick as long as possible. Don't think we're going to see Tua anytime soon based on what we've seen. Fitzpatrick at least is keeping them competitive, but let's stay in the NFC with perhaps Seattle's top challenger from what we're seeing through the first quarter of the season here. The Bucs, they fall behind early, but Tom Brady goes for 369 yards against the Chargers, 5 TDs. He did throw a pick 6 early, but this Bucs team's looking dangerous. They were down 24-7 early, but a critical fumble by rookie running back Joshua Kelly after Austin Eckler left the game with injury in the final seconds of the first half really gifted Tampa an easy touchdown to cut it to 20-14 at the half. Another week as a starter, another positive performance for Justin Herbert. The rookie from Oregon goes for 290 yards, 3 touchdowns, and he threw an interception late. Wasn't a great throw. It was on the Chargers' final drive that helps Tampa hold on to the W. But another solid performance for the rookie, and I think Los Angeles got to be excited about their first-round draft pick. After week 1, Rob, did you expect the Bucs to look this solid so soon, or did you think this would take a little more time to kind of gel and develop? I expected them to at least need till into November to look this good.
Yeah, I honestly really don't think Tampa Bay has really scratched the surface. I just don't. I mean, granted, Tom Brady throws for 5 touchdowns. He hits, throwing the ball around is he's not keying on one receiver. I know the narrative is, when Gronk is going to, catch some passes. But once again, it just seems like he's throwing into the open guy. But I still don't think the offense is clicking on all cylinders, especially with, the drops from Ronald Jones coming out the backfield. I thought that was kind of detrimental to some drives that Tampa Bay was putting together in the game. But Tom Brady, he looks like TB12 of old, especially today. Mike Evans, it just seems like him and Mike Evans is kind of getting that chemistry going where, he can just throw to a spot and Mike Evans is going to be there. It just seems like, Tom Brady is definitely settling in with the offense and what they're doing down there in Tampa, Nick.
Yeah, it's been an impressive stretch for the Bucs. We see Brady still making a few mistakes here and there, but I mean the guy is human, even though he doesn't seem like it. But man, almost throws for close to 400 yards, 5 TDs, despite the pick 6. And you got a defense that even when the defense is not coming through for you, the defense has been playing great down there. Did not play awesome today, but even when they're not coming through, you got Brady as the backup plan right now. So it sounds weird to say, but I really believe in this Bucs defense. I think that's just a bad day for them. They'll bounce back. All right, let's move on. Another team that had to bounce back today, the Baltimore Ravens. Staying close, playing the Washington football team. Little Beltway rivalry here. Lamar Jackson scored on a 50-yard touchdown run the first half as the Ravens really, they needed this. They needed a good performance today after Monday night's disaster against the Chiefs. Washington fell behind 28-10 early in the third. We're never really super competitive here today. Haskins threw for 314. Terry McLaurin reels in 10 receptions for 118 yards. Probably highlights the day for the football team. If you're Baltimore, this was the ultimate take-care of business game. Bengals and Eagles are next up for the Ravens. Then first Pitt, at Indy, at New England, versus Tennessee, at Pitt. What a stretch. How are we feeling about the Ravens as serious contenders in the AFC after a not-so-good performance on Monday night against the Chiefs, Rob?
Yeah, I think they're serious contenders, if you ask me, Nick. I think that was just a one-off. And once again, it is Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs, but that's the team that you have to beat moving forward if you want to lift the Lombardi at the end of the year. So with that being said, I think Lamar Jackson kind of showed us not only can he throw the ball, but he can run the ball. So we really haven't seen that Lamar so far this season, but you see it on the long run where he just rips off the long run for the touchdown. And I think you're going to see a little bit more of that, heading into the latter part of the season, especially when the defenses start wearing down.
I'm going to read this stretch again. Versus Pittsburgh, at Indy, at New England, versus Tennessee, at Pittsburgh. All right, 5-game stretch there. Are we seeing you're probably at least splitting with Pittsburgh, I'm thinking. And then at Indy, at New England versus Tennessee, probably – you're losing at least 2 out of the next 5 games if you're Baltimore, right?
I would say 2 out of 5, but definitely I would definitely see the split with Pittsburgh and the Patriots, depending on the situation with Cam Newton and everything, how that goes. But I can definitely see the Ravens fall into the Patriots and splitting with the Steelers, but definitely winning the other games.
Hey, it's big time stretch that's going to define their season. And again, that's after the Bengals and Eagles. Bengals and Eagles are up next, just to be clear about that. I'm just looking ahead on the schedule after the Eagles because I think they'll take care of business the next 2 games. Pitt, Indy, New England, Tennessee, at Pitt. That's going to define your season right there if you're Baltimore. I'm a little concerned that they might have got exposed against the Chiefs. That's why I'm kind of honing in on that. I think the Ravens are a good team. Love Lamar Jackson. I don't know, man. They were disappointing against Tennessee in the playoffs. I think there's a game plan to beat them, and I think if you have the personnel, you can figure out how to do it. So I'm not a buyer on Baltimore right now. Selling my Ravens stock if you want some.
Well, I'm gonna be buying your Ravens stock, Nick. I think the defense has been so consistent over the years, and I think Lamar Jackson. He's actually taken a step forward this year as becoming a passer. You see Mark Andrews. He hasn't been the same Mark Andrews we saw last year, but it seems like he's coming along. Hollywood Brown, Willie Snead, Mark Ingram. It just seems like they have so many weapons on that offense side of the ball. But it ultimately all boils down to Lamar Jackson. Just like you said, it seemed like, the Kansas City Chiefs kind of had a game plan and wrote out a blueprint to how to defend him. But I think Harbaugh and Lamar Jackson is going to fix the problems moving forward. So I think you saw that this week, which was definitely a great bounce back game for them to have against the Washington football team. But I think Ravens is going to get it together and they're going to make a deep, deep run. So I definitely buying all the Ravens stock that you're selling, Nick.
All right. Carolina knocks off Arizona 31-21. I'm done underestimating Teddy Bridgewater and the Panthers. I've done it 4 times this season. I've been wrong each time. Teddy was out there today looking like Michael Vick on a TD run. I know you texted me right after that happened. I was quite impressed with that run myself. And this offense, it's not going to impress you too much, but they're steady. They're just steady. I mean, Matt Rule's defense, they held an explosive Cards offense to 262 total yards. The Cards should bounce back against the Jets next week, but I think this could be an important loss for them because I'm going to go ahead and say it. I think both these teams are going to be contending for a wild card. Am I giving Carolina too much credit here, or is it time to start recognizing that the Panthers may make a playoff push?
They might make a playoff push, Nick. And as crazy as that sound, it just seems like Teddy Bridgewater is, galvanizing the troops. And it's just, without Christian McCaffrey, it's just like, all right, we have to create plays from our other personnel. And Robbie Anderson had a big game today. It seemed like he was unguardable, if you ask me. And I think Teddy Bridgewater is just the quintessential quarterback. I know the talk around Teddy is that he's a game manager. He doesn't push the ball down the field, but it just seems like for some reason he's so comfortable in this offense, and he looks healthy. So he's letting it rip and he's dealing it week in and week out. And it's only going to get better when Christian McCaffrey comes back, Nick.
So you kind of touched on what I was about to go to here, but I'm going to call this good theory, bad theory, and you're going to tell me if it's a good theory or bad theory. And I think you touched on it a little bit, so I think I know which way you're leaning, but I'm going to present this for the audience fully articulated here. So do you think that McCaffrey missing a few weeks is a long-term benefit for Joe Brady, Teddy Bridgewater in the offense? And the reason I'm saying that, you obviously want him back as soon as possible. It's Christian McCaffrey, one of the best running backs in football. But I think having a guy like McCaffrey who's so good forces you on focusing on feeding him the ball to some extent, at least. And you're really, without him, you're forced to spread it out and really understand what you have outside of your star running back. So he's solid, McCaffrey, but this may give other players some room to breathe and develop. And even for Teddy, who's first year in Carolina, Joe Brady, who's still learning the offense and the personnel and game situations, it really helps them get to know every nook and cranny of this offense, I believe. Good theory or bad theory, Rob?
I think that is a great theory, if you ask me, Nick. And the reason why I say that is because sometimes when you have a perennial superstar like a Christian McCaffrey or a Julio Jones, you kind of lean on those guys more so than not. I mean, granted, you want to give your best players the ball, but sometimes you kind of have to have those guys being a decoy. So I think when Christian McCaffrey comes back, he's going to be the ultimate decoy, which is going to set up plays for the other guys. And look at the emergence of Mike Davis. He seems like a slimmer Mike Tolbert, if you ask me. The way he's
much slimmer.
Yeah, much slimmer. So let's emphasize the much slimmer Mike Tolbert. But the way he's running, Nick, and he's bouncing off tackles is definitely reminiscent of Mike Tolbert. But that's going to be a great 1-2 punch when Christian McCaffrey comes back, Nick. Like, how do you stop that? That's kind of their version of thunder and lightning.
It's like you said, Robbie Anderson's getting out there. I feel like Teddy is out of the shotgun mostly. I mean, McCaffrey's like really the perfect running back for the system anyway. But it's I'm really liking what they're doing. Bridgewater's really seemed to take to this offense, and I this Carolina team, I'm done underestimating them. I'm taking them serious from now on. So, a couple teams that we maybe overestimated coming into the season got together and tangled in Texas today. Minnesota 0-3 versus the 0-3 Houston Texans. I don't think many of us would have expected either of these teams to be winless in the first week of October, but the Vikings finally get their first W. They beat the Texans 31-23. Adam Thielen accounts for 114 yards. Kirk Cousins only threw for 200, though, so that's pretty impressive for Thielen. Dalvin Cook goes off 130 yards, 2 touchdowns. Vikes getting the W column. Good performance out of the Minnesota defense today. I'm a bit surprised that Houston's offense has struggled so much. It really just seems like they don't do much early in the game. Like they might have 1 or 2 good drives, but they're always good for a couple cheap TDs late. Deshaun Watson will will them to at least 1 or 2 TDs late to make the game look respectable. Minnesota goes to Seattle next week, versus Atlanta, then Green Bay. Rob, is there any chance the Vikings recover from this 0-3 start to make a wild card argument here? Or like I personally, I'm not seeing it with the defense. I think they played okay today, which has been their problem, but this defense seems to be a real problem overall.
Yeah, the defense is definitely a real problem, especially with the young corners on the outside. I know the defense took a big hit, especially with Harrison Smith getting ejected earlier in that game for targeting. The call was kind of questionable, but once you run it back slow-mo, I think Harrison Smith could have did a better job of keeping his helmet up. And that's what the NFL is trying to keep out of the game right now. Just leading with your helmet and any helmet-to-helmet action, or even anything above the chest area. So I think the Minnesota Vikings defense is definitely struggling. But Danielle Hunter should be back pretty soon. With that pairing of Ndakwe on the outside, that bodes well for Minnesota moving forward. But just like you said, they have Seattle, Atlanta, and Green Bay, and all those teams can put up points. So, and that's one thing that the Minnesota Vikings defense don't want to see, a team that can put up points. So it's definitely going to be tough sledding moving forward, Nick. But if any team can pull it off, I think the Vikings can, just because they have Dalvin Cook, Adam Thielen, and Justin Jefferson, the emergence of the rookie the last couple of games. So if Kirk Cousins is kind of stay in the pocket and make the throws, I think he can lift the defense enough to kind of, pull out some wins moving forward, Nick.
You definitely need that offense for like clicking on all cylinders going forward. But 2 out of 3 games against Seattle and Green Bay, I'm not seeing it. I really just asked that because I know you're a Vikings guy, and I wanted you to try to enjoy the moment. But I think that actually might have crushed the moment a little bit. But you should enjoy that win. Good win today. More depression within the NFC North. I expected a lot more from Nick Foles today, but the Colts just went into Chicago and flattened the Bears. Indianapolis wins 19-11. Bears got a late TD that didn't mean anything. It was just a total beatdown by the Colts defensively today. I'm liking Phillip Rivers as this game manager. I'm loving the fit in Indy here. I think the Colts had a nice pickup here with Phillip Rivers. I've always liked Phillip Rivers anyway, but they're not asking much out of the guy. Just be steady. Don't make too many turnovers. And I think he's fulfilling the role pretty well. Still don't know how this Colts team lost to the Jaguars in week 1, but that's a different story. Are the Colts as good as we've seen the last 3 weeks on defense, though, or are they just feasting off of struggling offenses? The Vikings, Jets, and Bears aren't exactly striking fear into my heart.
Actually, I think this Colts defense is really good on both sides of the ball, Nick. We know what their offensive line brings with Quentin Nelson and the crew, and I think the defense is finally catching up. I know they lost Malik Hooker early in the year, but once again, I think this Colts team is just solid on both sides of the ball, which is going to help them keep them in the game moving forward. So I think this Colts team is legit, and they can definitely battle for a playoff spot.
Well, the Colts go to Cleveland next week, so it'll be interesting to see 2 teams that are going to be battling for those playoff spots duke it out. So that's one of your 2 games. You said you get on board with the Browns. The Browns end up beating the Colts. Got to respect that one because Indy's been playing some good football. But let's move back to the Bears real quick. They're still 3-1. They played bad today. It's their first loss, though. I definitely stick with Foles. You know what you got in Mitch already. You got to give Foles a few more games here. But here's my problem with Nick Foles. I don't think it's going to go very well. He faces the Bucs, the Panthers, the Rams, the Saints, and the Titans in the next 5 weeks. I'm going to read that again. The Bucs, the Panthers, Rams, Saints, and Titans in the next 5 weeks. Do you think we've heard the last of Mitch Trubisky in Chicago? Because I suspect not.
I think we have. I think, okay. Mitch is kind of, outward his welcome. They gave him, chances and chances again. And I really like the way Nick Foles played coming in and mop-up duty last week. And I think this is the first week where he actually started and kind of, had to manage the game. So I take this as a one-off, but because the Colts is a really good team. I think the Colts is going to make a playoff push. But I think you stick with Nick Foles. He won a Super Bowl. You just don't win Super Bowls being a quarterback, Nick. So I definitely.
But let me challenge you on that. The Colts are a good team. Fine. Are the Bucs, Panthers, Rams, Saints, and Titans good teams?
Yes.
So are we? I mean, I don't think the future bodes well for Nick Foles, though. That's my point. And I think they might be a point. It's not that they're going to go to Mitch Trubisky because they're desperate. It's because if they look this bad this week, I'm with you. It's their first game. I'm willing to write it off as a one-off right now, but it might not get much better in the next few weeks. And I'm really just putting that out there as a warning for Bears fans.
Yeah, I mean, if you're asking me if do I think Nick Foles is the long-term answer? No. But if you ask me, do I think Nick Foles is going to ride it out for the rest of the season? Yes. The only way Trubisky gets back is due to injury. So I just don't think Nick Foles is going to get benched no matter, how bad they're losing. I just think Nick Foles is the better option between the two. So I just don't see him getting benched. I see him – only way Trubisky gets back in if Nick Foles goes down with the injury. But, yeah, I think this is Nick Foles' job at least for the rest of the year.
I hope it goes well because I want to see a challenger to Green Bay. So I think the Lions and the Vikings, I'm not so sure that they're going to be those contenders this year. So if the Bears at least can push the Packers a little bit and Foles is playing some meaningful games in December for Chicago, I think the season's more interesting. So I'm rooting for the Bears to figure it out. I think we get to see them against the Bucs on Thursday Night Football this week, if I'm not mistaken. Let me double check that real quick. Yeah, Tampa Bay and Chicago on Thursday night. How about that for an upgrade from the Jets and Broncos? That's pretty good. So we'll get to see Tom Brady go to Chicago this week. All right, the Giants, the G-Men, New York, they go out to Los Angeles. They beat the Rams. It felt like they beat the Rams because I had the Rams covering pretty easily in this game. But the Rams ended up winning the game 17-9. More action after the game, though, Rob. And we're two guys, we like to keep it on the field when we talk about football, right? We don't get into the gossipy garbage off the field. Don't really care. But Jalen Ramsey and Golden Tate set off a brawl at midfield. Ramsey and Tate, they have some personal beef involving Ramsey's involvement and treatment with his sister. According to the New York Post, Ramsey's the father of Tate's two nieces, and he ended his relationship with Golden Tate's sister, Brianna Tate, during her pregnancy last year. That's pretty freaking wild. But if you follow Jalen Ramsey at all, I mean, Jalen Ramsey's kind of out there. So it's unexpected. I think I saw some Twitter exchanges between them where Golden Tate said he's going to have to see me eventually. So I saw one big hit from Ramsey on Tate today, but the bigger hits were going down after the game. I expect we'll probably see some suspensions there. But let's go back to what happened on the field. The Giants really hung around in this one, and it was really – until the fourth quarter that the Rams could put this away. I mean, as ugly of a game as it was offensively for the Giants, they really were right there with them. I thought the Rams were going to be a piece of cake cover. Rob, I even took your suggested parlay from the picks episode this week. Rams minus 13 over 48. I thought that was in the bag. Why did the Rams offense underperform in this one?
Yeah, that's a great question. It just seemed like the Giants team, whether it was on the offense side or the defensive ball, came out with a lot of energy. It really seemed like they came to play. I don't know if that was due to Golden Tate getting the guys fired up in the locker room before the game, but something set this defense off. But once again, the Rams' offense was very stagnant throughout the day. But I just think that was more indicative of the Giants' offense cranking up the intensity.
Yeah, the Rams only had 240 yards total offense today. Jared Goff, he passed for 200. I mean, this is not – like, the Rams are starting to confuse me now, okay, because they looked so good the first couple weeks of the season, but now I'm getting a little worried. Now I'm starting to kind of dial back my enthusiasm. I thought, hey, the Rams they're gonna be a comeback team of the year here. I'm watching the Seahawks. The Seahawks are steady and consistent. The Rams are kind of – I think it's going to be a little bit of a flavor of the week thing with the Rams because the Giants are not this good. The Giants should not be sticking around and pushing you this hard, especially on the road on a cross-country game there. But, good for the Giants for hanging around, I guess. But the Rams, you got to question yourselves a little bit. Go back to the drawing board a little bit on this one. If you're the Rams, you got at Washington, at San Francisco the next couple weeks. That should be 2 games for you right there in the W column. All right, so if you screw around with me on those games, Rams, I'm gonna have a problem with you. So I like what they're doing overall. They seem like they're bouncing back, but tough performance against a Giants team that's not that great right now. Buffalo travels west and goes to Vegas to play the Raiders. Just as I'm starting to love this Bills team, Rob, something I mentioned in week 1, Josh Allen injures his left shoulder, goes to the locker room. He comes back into the game, still has a great game. But the Bills need a full season out of their quarterback if they want to win the East, in my opinion. it's a big win here because the Pats are going to Kansas City. Their game was delayed due to COVID. We'll talk about that later. This could give the 4-0 Bills a 2-game lead in the East, though, with the Pats going to Kansas City. So this was a very big win here for Buffalo. Derek Carr still goes for 311. Vegas never really threatened in this game. But, Rob, we know we like the Bills for the first quarter. But how you feeling about Las Vegas? They're sitting at 2-2. You know, there's a rookie quarterback at the helm with the Chargers. The Broncos needed every second of that game to handle the terrible Jets. I think the Raiders are a low-key playoff team here, maybe the wild card hunt. I know we're throwing a lot of teams out for the wild card, but it's still early. So it's fun to talk about. Through the first quarter of the season, the Raiders have had some good moments.
They have, Nick. And once again, everything falls on Derek Carr's shoulder. You know, we if Derek Carr can consistently play the way he played the Monday night game second half against the Saints, I think, you know, we're talking about the Raiders being a wild card team. That would definitely be a lock if Derek Carr can kind of keep up that level of play. But once again, Josh Jacobs was bottled up for pretty much the whole game, but that was a testament to that Bills defense. But going back to Josh Allen, in order for the Bills to actually make a deep run in the playoffs, they're going to need Josh Allen. So I definitely want, you know, the Bills to stop running Josh Allen on the goal line. Just hand the ball off to your running backs. You don't need your quarterback to take any more beating than he has to. I hate seeing Josh Allen running the ball on the goal line, but I know all the fantasy owners love it. But just from a football perspective, just hand it off to your running back. Save Josh Allen for the season and for the playoffs. Don't let him get banged up and beat up unnecessarily. Just hand it off on the goal line. But yeah, I think this Vegas team, going back to your statement, Nick, I think they can make the wild card. The defense, they were kind of up and down today, but I know they're missing some pieces on both sides of the ball. But I think John Gruden is just doing a hell of a job, you know, coaching the guys and putting them in the best system that they can to win the game, Nick.
You think the Bills how much praise do you have for Buffalo after we're through the first quarter of the season here? Bills are 4-0. Not many teams live up to the preseason hype like Buffalo has.
Yeah, so far it seems like they're one of the few teams who's living up to the hype. I mean, the Saints, they're having their ups and downs, so they're not really living up to the hype. You know, Tampa Bay has been, you know, up and down, especially Brady with the new team struggling. So it really seems like, you know, the Bills and the Chiefs is the only two teams that's really living up to the hype, minus that Chiefs Chargers game. But once again, I really like this Bills team. They're solid on both sides of the ball. I think, you know, they just have to beat down the opponents that they have to beat and not sleepwalk. So I think that's one thing that they can work on moving forward.
All right. So if you're Buffalo, let's find I was going to say, let's find the first loss. You go at Tennessee and versus Kansas City the next 2 weeks. Tennessee's on Sunday at 1:00. You know, hopefully all the Titans are clear from their COVID test. The Titans and Steelers were delayed due to COVID tests with the Tennessee team this week. But hopefully they're cleared by next week so the Bills can go down to Tennessee and play. But at Tennessee versus Kansas City, are they coming out of that 2-0? They coming out of that next two games 2-0, Rob?
I see 1-1. I think, you know, the Bills drop the Kansas City game. I think they beat Tennessee. They knock off Tennessee, but they drop the Kansas City game, Nick.
Yeah, so it's a big game in Tennessee next week too to kind of keep that goose egg in the loss column, because the real game is week 8. You got the Patriots coming to Orchard Park to play the Bills on Sunday, November 1st. And the next meeting with the Patriots will be in week 16. So those two meetings will likely decide the AFC East title, I'm guessing. Been a long time for Buffalo, man. Hoping they can get over the hump this year. It'll be interesting to see, but great start to the season for Sean McDermott and the Bills. All right, let's cap it off. Philly at San Francisco. The Eagles get on the board. 25-20 win over the injured 49ers. We did see some return today. We saw George Kittle get back for the 49ers, but you're still just missing a ton of pieces from this team. I kind of projected last week that the next stretch would not be so good for San Francisco. This is going to be a tough season for them, I think. I don't think they're going to live up to that Super Bowl team of a year ago. But Brandon Ayuk, the rookie out of Arizona State, in the first half, he has an amazing leaping touchdown over a Philly DB that's going to be on all the – I think that will replace the Odell Beckham catch on the NFL commercials for the next 10 years. Unbelievable play by the rookie out of Arizona State. Talk about how explosive he is, Robert.
Very explosive. I think you kind of see this when he was in Arizona State. His clips out there jumping over guys, in the Oklahoma drill. So we know the athleticism that Brandon Ayuk has. But I think, the addition of Deebo Samuel being back, it only helps Brandon Ayuk moving forward. But once again, we saw Nick Mullins get benched for C.J. Beathard. So it just seems like San Francisco has a quarterback problem moving forward. We don't know if Jimmy G's the guy. I mean, he's got paid. He's getting paid like he's the guy, but do we know he's the guy? Especially not to have that defense there with Solomon Thomas and Bosa. So is the 49ers moving forward is going to have to lean on that offense, Nick. But I just don't see them. I'm right along with you. I think it's going to be a tough stretch for San Francisco moving forward.
Yeah, I think that Mullins today, they tend to like Mullins out there in San Francisco from everything I read and hear. But today, you watch it today, the Eagles have not exactly been lighting the world on fire, but the defense comes through with some big plays. They have 3 takeaways. And after the third turnover, which was I believe it was a pick 6. We're actually recording right after this game. So we started recording during the game and we kind of watch out of the corner of our eye here. But yeah, 30-yard interception return for a pick 6 with about 5-6 minutes left in the fourth quarter. That kind of sealed the deal for the Eagles. At that point, C.J. Beathard comes in the game, drives down the field, great drive, 12-play drive, 25-20. Philly ends up winning. They stuffed the Niners on their final drive to seal this one up. Eagles, we said it last week. Don't panic yet. It's been ugly, but the NFC East isn't very good. You're 1-2-1, and you're officially in first place in the NFC East. That's not a bad division to be playing football in this year.
It's definitely not. And once again, it just seems like, you can have a losing record and still win that division. So I think if you're an Eagles fan, no panic. I know Carson Wentz has been taking a lot of heat. I know Doug Peterson has been taking a lot of heat. But if they can, gather the troops and kind of use this win as a stepping stone moving forward, I think, they can win that division. I don't see Washington or the Giants winning the division at all. So I really think it's going to be between the Eagles and the Cowboys, Nick. What are your thoughts on that one?
I agree, and but it doesn't get easier for the Eagles here. You got Pittsburgh next on the road versus Baltimore. You get a little break with the Giants before you play the Cowboys. Based on the way things are going, you would think the Eagles are going to drop 2 or 3 going into the Dallas game, whereas the Cowboys, they get the Giants, Cardinals, and Washington leading up to the Eagles game. So I really expect the Cowboys to win the next 3 games, but you might drop that Cardinals game, win 2 out of 3. So either way, that's going to be a pivotal showdown. If both teams take care of business against the Giants like we suspect they will, that's going to be a pivotal showdown in Week 8 in Dallas to take control of the NFC. Their next matchup is also in Week 16. So it's going to be Eagles and Giants in the NFC East like it is in most years, quite frankly, nowadays. But no reason to panic if you're Philly. I don't think you're going anywhere once you get to the playoffs, but we'll see. Give Carson Wentz some time. Be a little patient, Philly. I know Philly's not great at that. All right, let's move on to Monday night. You got the Pats at the Chiefs. I was so looking forward to that game this weekend. I mean, I got to assume this is stupid to even talk about, but I'm not keeping up. I've just given up on trying to follow the latest news on every COVID situation because things change so rapidly. But Cam Newton test positive for COVID-19 was probably the story of the sports week this week. Broke yesterday, I believe. And I'm a little surprised they're playing this game Monday night, Rob. Are you hearing anything about Cam Newton? I very much assume he's not playing, but I would assume if Cam Newton tested positive, I'm surprised that the Patriots maybe they were already in Kansas City. I don't know. I'm a little surprised this game's going off. How about you?
Yeah, I am. I know I was reading some reports, and one of the things that they were talking about is is that, Kansas City and New England, they have bye weeks, but they don't align with each other. So they couldn't postpone it to push it back during the bye weeks. So supposedly Cam Newton is the only player that tested positive for the Patriots. And they're going to roll with Brian Hoyer as the starting quarterback on the Monday night game.
Is that official? Have you seen that announced? Because I'm reading mixed things where Newton still could play.
Yeah, see, that's one report that I didn't see, and I think that's the thing where I think we're on the same agreement. Where it's like, is why is this game being played tomorrow? Like, wouldn't you just postpone it? You get what I'm saying? Like, this news just baffles me. But this is the type of year that we're in. This is 2020 for you, Nick.
I'm glad they're making an effort and everything. It just feels like if Cam Newton has it, there's maybe somebody on the team might have it, and this is the way things get spread. So, like, I just it's a little baffling to me that they're playing right now. But, I understand that bye weeks might not align, but is there someone in the NFL office that kind of says, like, hey, maybe every team's not going to play 16 games this year? I mean, I definitely think if this happens, like, I would be willing to bet anyone this right here. But I think later in the season, like if you saw, let's say, the Patriots and Jets play in week 13 or something, I don't know if that's the actual schedule, but when you see some team that's going to be completely out of the playoff hunt late, I think you're just going to see games get straight up canceled. So I am not expecting every team to play 16 games this year in the NFL. But right now it's so early in the season, and this is a critical matchup. But even still, it's a critical matchup. Cam Newton gets sick, so you're rolling with the backup in New England. Yeah, I don't know, man. I just think it's crazy. And by the way, is it Hoyer or Stidham that would start?
Yeah, from the reports that I read, the starter will probably be Brian Hoyer since he's listed number 2 on the depth chart behind Cam Newton. So, but once again, it's 2020, Nick. No one knows.
Yeah.
So we just have to kind of play it by ear and kind of see what happens.
We kind of made a rule, didn't we, like early on, where we just got tired of constantly speculating. We're just not going to do a whole lot of COVID speculation because there's no real rhyme or reason to any of this stuff. But anyway, I'm glad they're trying to play it. I'm a little confused by it. That's all. All right, last one. So that makes it a doubleheader Monday night. Atlanta plays Green Bay at 8:50 on ESPN, the regular scheduled ESPN game. Not much to say about this one. I got to think Rodgers and the Pack are going to roll.
Yeah, I mean, I don't see anything else that will tell me they wouldn't roll. Once again, hopefully Atlanta doesn't get the league because it just seems like when Atlanta gets the league, they give it away.
If you lose the whole time, it's not as bad.
It's not as bad, and that's what I see Atlanta doing, especially this week with Aaron Rodgers in Green Bay. I think Aaron Rodgers is locked in. I love Aaron Rodgers. Coming into this year, I thought Aaron Rodgers was going to have a bounce back year, and he's proven me right so far, Nick. So I'm going to keep riding Aaron, throughout the whole season. And I love Green Bay in this one, and I think Green Bay gets the services of Devontae Adams back. So that only helps Aaron Rodgers in that passing attack.
I saw this tweet going around today. I don't know who officially sent it, but it says, "We are officially in the fourth quarter of 2020. Man, I hope we're playing the Falcons." So here's to hoping that the year 2020 plays fourth quarters like the Atlanta Falcons do. It's been a rough. I almost feel bad making that joke because it's been rough enough to be a Falcons fan. But Falcons fans, I started saying it a couple weeks ago here, or did I start saying last week after week 3? Hey, you're gonna get Trevor Lawrence. I'm telling you. The Jets, if the Jets get the first pick, he's going to threaten to go back to school. He's going to pull Eli Manning. He's going to pull a John Elway, threatening not to play for the Colts. I think Lawrence has options. I think he can get it done. Lawrence finds a way to get to Atlanta. The Falcons bring their hometown boy back, and I think the Atlanta gets something good for such a crappy 2020. So we'll see how that goes. That's just a theory. That's based on nothing or no inside knowledge or information. Totally a theory. But Trevor Lawrence to the Falcons.
I mean, you're the first who put that out there, Nick. So I definitely give you that. And I mean, the way the Falcons are playing, and Trevor Lawrence is the hometown kid, so I can definitely see him going to Atlanta. But I just think with Matt Ryan there, it's just the level that he's playing at right now. It's just like, how can you get rid of Matt Ryan? Matt Ryan is not the
You
problem.
don't have to.
It's-
You don't have to get rid of him. You can have the best teacher in the world for Trevor Lawrence for a year. I'm telling you, it's a great plan. Then Matt Ryan could ride off on the side. Even Tom Brady is playing somewhere else. Okay, if Tom Brady could go play for the Buccaneers, Matt Ryan can trot his ass onto the field wearing I don't know. Let's say I'm blanking on a team for Matt Ryan next year. Who needs a quarterback next year? Who are we going with? Not that no. Hey, maybe the Saints. Maybe Drew Brees retires. Matt Ryan can trot on the field in the Saints uniforms. I know I probably just pissed off a lot of Falcons fans with that comment, though. So, but who knows? Drew Brees might retire. All right. Again, based on nothing. Total speculation. I should probably stop talking. Let's get to the Did You Know? Question of the week presented by Coach Paint. Unless you got one more thing to say about this week's NFL, Rob.
I'm still buying all the stock that you're selling on the Ravens. I really like the Ravens.
You can have it.
But I'm definitely going to buy that stock. But I'm definitely selling a lot of stock in other teams out there.
It's all yours. All that Ravens stock is yours.
I'm taking all the Ravens and Green Bay stock that you have to sell.
I'm buying on Green Bay, so I didn't sell you any Green Bay stock. I'm still buying. I'm buying on them. You were high on them though. You were from week 1. You were talking about them. So I'm still buying on Green Bay. All right, let's go to the Did You Know question of the week, question of the episode, brought to you by Coach Paint. Okay, Rob, this I had to find a tie-in to your Minnesota Vikings for this question. They finally locked down their first win to improve to 1-3, but they did start 0-3. All right, so that kind of hurts your playoff chances. And we discussed the probability of them bouncing back and making the playoffs, and that probability was probably not. But courtesy of Greg Rajan, I'm sorry if I butchered that pronunciation, but it's an article from the Houston Chronicle. History shows that only 6 out of 182 teams, that's 3.2% of teams, Rob, in case you were doing that math in your head, have started 0-3 since 1980 have rallied to make the playoffs. Okay? So, again, that's 6 out of 182 teams, 3.2%, that have started 0-3 since 1980 have rallied to make the playoffs. It's only been done 4 times since the NFL went to a 12-team playoff format in 1990, but only one team has gone from 0-3 to the playoffs since the divisions were realigned in 2002. So, the official question of the episode is, who is the only team to make the playoffs after finishing 0-3 since the divisions were realigned in 2002? And my hint for you is this. It was in 2018. I'm a generous guy. I always tell you that. I'm giving you generous hints because this is a tough question. So, the team that did it, it was in 2018. They started 0-3 before winning 9 straight games, finishing 11-5 and winning their division. And here's the part where I'm very generous on. They lost in the wild card round that year. So I just told you the story of their season from 2018. It wasn't that long ago. I think it's a fair question because of that. So we'll cut for break, and when we come back, we'll have your answer. American Football Stories is brought to you by Coach Paint. Coach Paint offers the ability to clearly tell a straight video while increasing retention of information in a short amount of time. Up your game today with Coach Paint. All right, we're back from break. Rob, I'm trying to give you and your Vikings a little bit of hope here, okay? But my question was, who is the only team to make the playoffs after finishing 0-3 since the divisions were realigned in 2002? And my very generous hint for you was it was done in 2018. This team started 0-3 before winning 9 straight games to finish 11-5, and they won their division. However, they lost in the wild card round.
I think I'm gonna have to go with your team in this one, Nick. I'm gonna go with the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Big board. Was it the Jaguars? No, but it wasn't the NFC South. AFC South. It wasn't the AFC South team. The 2018 Houston Texans, Deshaun Watson, second year. They lost to the Pats, Titans, Giants to open the season. They went back-to-back overtime wins over the Colts and Cowboys. And then they only lost 2 games the rest of the year by a combined total of 5 points in the regular season. Andrew Luck and the Colts went down to Houston, beat the Texans in the wild card round before getting whooped by the Chiefs in the divisional round. So that's it. So we're both 0 for October. Rob, welcome to 0 for October.
I'm in the same boat as you, Nick. 0 for October.
You had a chance.
On Did You Know?
Hey, next time I ask you a question about this team making the playoffs, it's probably not the Jaguars. Just gonna throw that out there for you. All right, you got anything else for us, or you want to read us out?
Yeah, if you don't have anything else, Nick, I'm gonna read us out. But great Did You Know question. But once again, we're both 0 for October so far, so I definitely got to get a question right on the next episode.
Same here, man.
But yeah, if you have nothing else, Nick, I'm gonna go ahead and read us out. So once again, we would just like to tell our listeners that we appreciate you for listening to this episode of American Football Stories. Please find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube. And please subscribe and rate us 5 stars. Follow us on Twitter at AmericanFBStories and check out our website, AmericanFootballStories.com. My name is Robert Parker III, and my co-host is Nick Newson. And once again, thanks for joining us, and we will see you next episode. Thank you.
You play to win the game. Hello? You play to win the game. You don't play to just play it. That's the great thing about sports. You play to win. And I don't care if you don't have any wins. You go play to win. When you start telling me it doesn't matter, then retire. Get out. Because it matters.
I hope there's Bigfoot. I don't think there is. The reason I don't think there is because we found bones of dinosaurs and everything else, but we haven't found bones that I've heard of Bigfoot.
I'm very upset. We should have been in the ball game with fast field goal. The coach had sent him in. We shouldn't have sent him in. That's a dang coaching mistake. The kids are playing their tail off, and the coaches are screwing it up.
We just got to stop that little inside trap. You know, the option didn't hurt us much. We played pretty hard. We just got to stop that inside thing. Offensively, we kind of sputtered around, got the ball in the end zone. You know, defensively, we got to get out off the field on that 2-minute drive.
Injuries to your offensive line. What do you do in the second half?
Oh, we're just going to play. We just got to keep playing.
Thank you, Coach.
He has a magnificent personality, I'll tell you.
We receive a lot of mail during the course of the season, and a lot of it's good mail, a lot of it's bad. And one of the
I would say that most of it is good, though, isn't it, Bill?
Yeah, I think so.
I'd say 95 to 98% of the mail we get is always good.
But the one question that keeps coming up where Woody Hayes' name is involved, they say you're a man of no mercy. And yet,
you know, frankly, I don't care much what they think.